All right, we now move to the NFL draft. We had their sort of our offensive preview last week. So this week we're going to move to the defensive side of the ball. We're going to mostly stick in the first round as we did last week. Drink, what do you see in the first round as far as the defensive side of the ball?
So last week when we talked about the offensive side, right? We talked about we might see two quarterbacks, maybe. This draft is real heavy on wide receivers. We most likely see more offensive linemen get drafted than probably quarterbacks, to be honest. Maybe one running back. It was only one running back with a first round grade. This when we switch to the defensive, I think that totally flips because it's going to be a lot. It seems like it's going to be a lot of defense that come off this board. Even though this is an offensive league, you got to try to stop them somehow. It looks like the first two picks look like Jacksonville might go with the edge rusher out of Michigan with Aiden Hutchinson. And it seems like it's a lot of chatter. We don't know. There's a lot of chatter around Trayvon Walker from Georgia, the defensive lineman. It seems like he got a good chance going number two. Now, the thing that's kind of iffy around here is I don't know if the cornerback out of Cincinnati, Ahmad Gardner, so I got a feeling he's going to go somewhere probably in the top 7. I'm just trying to figure out where. Right now, it seems like the Jets might take a flyer out on him. I mean, honestly, Houston could. I mean, if they really believe in David Mills and they're not going to, they could if they, want to do cornerback that bad. Me personally, that's where offensive linemen should get plugged in. But hey, I'm hearing a lot of juice about Ahmad Gardner, right? So I think in some mix, those would be the first 3 that come off. Where is kind of iffy because my thing is this, right? Like I said, this is an offensive league, so I'm like, where do you? I don't know. I guess I gotta ask myself. Once you kind of figure out the wide receivers, where do you go after those 3 defensive players? And that's where I'm kind of stuck because now I'm wondering, do you go with Derek Stingley, which he was like the number 1 cornerback for most of the year, and then Ahmad Gardner came out there, played what he played, made it to the playoffs, played against Alabama, and then now he didn't skyrocket to the number 1 cornerback. But Derek Stingley still a top cornerback. Then I'm like, where, for example, do the Commanders, do they reach out and grab Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame? I don't know. Like, these are the questions I'm like, they could use them, but then it's like a safety, and the Commanders probably want to get a wide receiver now that McLaurin seemed like he about to hold out because he ain't getting paid. So, but if McLaurin comes back or he gets signed, where do you go with your pick? You got the number 11 pick. Do you feel like cornerback is a place not cornerback, but the secondary is a place you need improvement? That's where Kyle Hamilton come in at. So I just look at it like, I think so the draft is what, next Thursday. I think we're going to most likely do a segment on Tuesday. I think Tuesday we're going to get a better picture of what, without all the smoke and mirrors. And I think, this, what they call it, breaking news here. I think we're going to get another trade too within the top 10. I won't be surprised if something moving around in the top 10 again. Just for the sake, like we said, the whole quarterback thing. There might be one that just worth the shuffle, but I don't know, man. That's my quick over top for the defensive players. I'm a little perplexed. I'm gonna be honest, just because, like I said, this draft, we don't got a lot of quarterbacks. We don't look like we're going to get a running back. So when you take both of those positions out, it kind of throws things off. So I'm kind of a little iffy I'm still on the fence with that.
Yeah, I think much like similar to what I was thinking about on the offensive side of the ball is some of these teams who have doubled up with picks, especially early on with the Giants, the Jets, and the Texans in particular. So I think what that does for them, because I think both teams they got a lot that they got to address. So I think if you got both of those, I'm looking almost like can we get best player on both sides of the ball at that particular time? That's kind of what I look like. I think they all need just about everything. Except, well, for the Jets, at least they got a quarterback. They think they do. The other two, I'm not sure, but I don't think any of these teams are going to be taking a quarterback, especially in the first round. Houston got Davis Mills. I mean, I think they may roll with him. And just the thing about it, I mean, we talked about the quarterbacks last week. I mean, none of these guys grade well enough to where you feel comfortable this early, so I would leave that alone. I think it do feel like that the defensive ends kind of are what's like, that's what we think. And really, especially in the case of Jacksonville, when you maybe like you franchise a guy like Cam Robinson, maybe you're less apt to use a top pick on another tackle since you did that. So maybe that's why. And I mean, it is kind of tempting, I think, if you get Hutchinson, Walker. I know Thibodeau, it seemed like has fallen off a little bit, but I still think he's a guy you would think about. I mean, even so, if you get one of those guys, you do have a nice pairing with him and Josh Allen. So, I mean, I think that is something that you could possibly build around on your defense. You talk about Ahmad Gardner, the sauce, as they like to call him. And, I got to say, man, and I don't know how this shakes out, but if I'm Carolina at 6, I think it'd be very tempting if Gardner is to fall to that spot. I think it'd be really tempting to draft Ahmad Gardner and have Gardner and J.C. Horn together. To me, that's something about that just really gets me interested. And I think, man, that's the most exciting young corner duo in football off the bat. That's something I'd look for. I think you brought up a really nice point about Washington. And I do think the thing about, and I get what you're saying at wide receiver, and look, some of these wide receivers, and we probably rated its own subject with Debo, Terry McLaurin, and AJ Brown. These wide receivers are different breed, man.
Yeah, don't forget Metcalf too. He out here flopping around too.
Oh, is he out here too? Oh my God. These wide receivers are something else. The market then got completely out of control with some of these contracts, and now everybody want everything. So I don't even know how you do it, but I do it. Look, I think Washington got to get Terry McLaurin. They got to get him together because this defense that we thought was going to do something. Yeah, they ain't do much. And their defensive front is still very talented. So I think you don't need to worry about that. But I do think it is the secondary that I think you got to pay some attention to. So I think I'd be more apt to maybe look at corner first. Maybe looking at Stingley, maybe a guy who's seemingly a little bit unknown to me, but he graded out really well. The kid out of Washington, Trent McDuffie, he's a guy maybe you look at. So I think judging by that 11th pick, it's kind of who I'd be looking at. The interesting thing is, how about it? Atlanta, and I know Atlanta, another one of them teams. They need a lot. They need a whole lot. But I do Atlanta. It feel like I can't remember the last time Atlanta had a pass rusher that like you really felt like, oh man, they got one. I know Vic Beasley a couple of years ago had like 16 sacks or something crazy, and it was kind of cool. But they just ain't had a dude like that. So I don't know if whoever like falls out of Hutchinson, Walker, or Thibodeau, I think that guy, maybe Atlanta should be kind of honed in on a pass rusher. Because I think for them, with all the stuff that they need, I'd start up on the defensive front. I mean, I'm sure they'll be considering wide receiver too, because they in such a sorry state as far as that. But if you look in defense, I'd maybe look at Thibodeau. The other guy I'm looking at who's really, really interesting to me is the big man out of Georgia, Jordan Davis. I think when I look at him, and I don't know if there's two teams I'm looking at for him. And I don't know if he could play 3-4. He certainly, to me, he's got the size to play 3-4. But to me, he just feels AFC North. I think Baltimore, Pittsburgh, I know they're a little bit far apart, 14-20. Jordan Davis, to me, he got the feel of an AFC North guy. And I'd really like to see him in that rivalry. And I think, I mean, with a guy built like that, if he can just tighten up the conditioning a little bit, be more of a force in the every downs. But really, I mean, maybe he's a guy who only plays 2 downs, comes off the field on third down, you just use them in run defense, you know, because especially in Pittsburgh, think about like Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt. You know, those guys can pinch down on the passing downs and rush from the rush tackle spots. When they play the base 3-4, you put Jordan Davis in there, man. Think about that defensive line. That'd be ridiculous. I would think about that if I'm Mike Tomlin. That would be a defensive line worth fearing. And the other thing, you know, the linebacker position, the inside guys, it seems to be a little bit thin. You got Devin Lloyd out of Utah. He's a guy who, you know, I think you got to pay attention to him. And then it go all the way down to the two Georgia guys, it looked like, in Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker. So I'm just looking here at some of these teams who could use an inside linebacker, you know, or a guy to, you know, work the middle. You know, I'm looking at that. I'm trying to identify some teams that it could use it. Maybe you look at a team, perhaps the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, could they use an upgrade in the middle of their defense at middle linebacker? Or are you looking at maybe Baltimore? Maybe inside linebacker is another position they need. But again, the thing about, you talk about a trade, because the middle linebacker spot is so thin. Could there be something to where, like, you have like a Devin Lloyd thing to where, oh, we got to get that dude to show up at the middle of our defense? Maybe that's the thing we should keep an eye on. So obviously a whole lot else that we didn't get into, but that's kind of the upfront on the defense as I see it.